Okay, today is Monday, August 20, 2018. This is a meeting of the Kubernetes CSI implementation group. We have 2 weeks remaining until code freeze, so things are getting pretty tight. We're going to go over the agenda. First up is tasks that we're tracking for this quarter, and we'll go from there to bugs and PRs and anything else you want to discuss. So first up, let's get a status update from Sergey on the kubelet device registration mechanism moving to beta. Vlad?
I was looking at the PR for that this morning, and I haven't seen any movement from Renault, so I'm gonna ping him to see what's going on with that. Seems like it hasn't. I'm not sure if he's waiting for us to say anything, or so I'll circle back with him to figure out what's going on with that.
Okay. And I think it's fair to say that we're not going to be doing the proxy this quarter.
Yeah, that's I thought about. I gave it some more thought, and I can't come to anything that would be a quick implementation. So, so rather than spend time, since we only have a couple weeks left, let's just punt it down the line and then just update the documentation.
Cool. Sounds good. Any chance Sergey is back? I wonder if we get progress on the end-to-end tests. But doesn't look like it. All right, cool. Okay. Next up is CSI Cluster Driver Registry. So I had a long conversation with the API machinery folks about where should the resource schema or the types.go and generated components for this live. Ultimately, they came up with two proposals. One was that it can live in the core along with the existing types, and it gets generated just like the existing types and ships to github.com/Kubernetes/API just like the existing types, and github.com/Kubernetes/client-go for the generated client. And the other proposal was that we have a separate staging directory just for us, and we ship into a separate repo just for us, but similar to Kubernetes/API and Kubernetes/client-go. Initially, I spoke with Chow, and he seemed like he was okay with letting us just put it into the existing types.go, existing staging, existing client-go, and API, because he believed there may be versioning issues if you have 2 or 3 different generated libraries that all depend on the same API machinery code. You have to ensure that all 3 clients that you pull, or all 2 clients, have the same version of the dependencies, or they aren't going to work well together. Then it looks like Daniel responded this morning, LavaLamp, and he prefers the other solution. I'm not sure how much work is involved in setting up a new staging pipeline. I think Stefan from Red Hat is the person who would be most familiar with that. I plan to ping him for help on this, but if any of you guys on the Red Hat side can ping him as well internally to see if he can help us with this, it would be valuable. But what's that, Jan?
I can ping him tomorrow. He's probably out of the office for today.
I see.
You can try.
Is he in Europe as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. I'll try pinging him, but then I'll expect that maybe tomorrow I'll actually be able to get in touch with him. So in the meantime, what I'm doing is just I have a PR that is attempting to put the bits into the existing types along with the existing types. The only thing is that these types are not installed by the API server. We're going to install them with the CRD. And looks like Jan already did this last week. I wasn't aware. So he ran into some of the same issues that I'm now running into, and I pinged him offline for advice. And hopefully I can learn from what he did last week and get around this. And then
if we are going to move to separate repository, then we don't need any of this.
I think the separate repository is not completely independent. The types.go are still going to live in the same place. It's just that the generated staging will be separate. So staging is going to be a separate staging. It will be like staging dash CSI or whatever.
Yeah. So if you generate client Go for the CSI API, it will be in its own package. So it will be generated just fine outside of the usual Kubernetes client Go, and you won't have issues with that.
Ah, I see. Okay, because all the tooling is going to be custom for this new staging. It's going to use a different version of the hack, generate codec and everything. Okay, I think I need API machinery help on this. Hopefully Stefan can help. I'll poke Lava Lamp and Chow and see if either of them can help too. But
okay, I can help with the movement, with the creation of the repository. But the decision where the API should be, it should come from Lava Lamp or Brian Gren maybe.
Yeah. I'm going to reply to Lava Lamp's comment and say, this is going to be more work for us, and we're not experts in this area. Can you or someone on your team help with this? And I want to see if he can, or what his recommendation is.
Okay.
But otherwise, it sounds like we might be on the hook to try and figure it out ourselves, which sucks.
Separate repository shouldn't be that difficult, but
it's not the separate repository. I think what I'm concerned about is figuring out all the things that the staging does and all the different hack scripts that need to be recreated for this.
No, that should be easy. Because this has been already done for a couple of other repositories.
Okay.
So you can follow some example.
Okay, I'll try to do that tonight. I'll probably poke you for help too later then. All right, so that's ongoing. Next up is NodeStatusField for CSI. So I think last status on this was it got merged in with Cheng's design. So either Cheng or Jan, do you want to talk about this?
Was it merged?
Let's see.
Because the prerequisite is not merged, so.
Doesn't look like it. Cheng, do you know what the status of this is?
I haven't seen any updates. We're planning to talk to Tim Hawkins tomorrow, schedule a meeting, discuss it more in detail.
Cool. Is there anything in here that you think will be controversial?
As long as the node object, I didn't really follow the updates on the node object from the SIG architecture, but if that's okay, the other thing that might be controversial is the label format. But I think
Okay.
I feel like it's one of the better options so
Yep.
far. But other than that, it should be okay.
Okay. And in terms of actually implementing this CSI node info object and all of that, is that started in parallel, or what's the status of that?
Jan is handling that. Yeah.
Me, okay.
Or
When we
if you're
had,
not, I can. Yeah, I was under
no,
the
it's
impression
okay.
that you were working on some of that.
No, that's okay. If we have the CSI driver, then this object will be the same. Like we can do it in the same PR or in a separate one, but it should follow the CSI driver example. So wherever it ends up,
This will
I can
follow.
create a subsequent PR.
Okay. Cool. Makes sense. Next up is, or anything else you guys want to give an update there? Okay. Next up is support for ephemeral local volumes. Do not attach operation. This is just pending on the CSI cluster registry. Any updates there, Jan?
No, I tried to implement it last weekend. Encountered a lot of weird issues with informers and everything, so I debugged that, and I didn't have time to go to the kubelet actually and try to skip attach.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Next up is inline volume support. So Vlad and I had a long discussion on Friday about this in the meeting, and I think there were a couple of issues that were raised. Vlad, do you want to talk about those or maybe summarize them, and then we can talk about them in detail at the end?
Sure. So basically, our conversation was revolving around some clarifications, whether or not, one of the main one is whether or not inline CSI will be strictly, to start with, will be strictly for non-attachable, or are we going to also support attachable? So that was one of the main ones. Actually, that is one of the main sticking point that we're trying to figure out, because supporting attachable will have its own implications, although it'll be on parity with something like a flex volume, I believe, or any other in entry volume that we have now. We have to figure out whether or not if it's something we want to support immediately or trying to bring it in after inline CSI goes in. And then the other issue was using PSP to turn on or off the ability to support attachable. So those are the two main points that I wanted to get clarification, and that's why I asked you guys to let's do a quick get together to iron that out, and then I can push the PR, continue to push the PR both implementation wise and getting approval.
Okay, we can discuss that a little more at the end of the call with anybody who's interested.
Sure.
Next up is passing workload information to CSI may require spec changes as well. We decided we don't need spec changes. The current proposal looked good. Jan, what's the latest on this?
It needs the CSI driver merged, and then I didn't get much feedback on it, so either it's okay or need somebody to review that.
Okay. So
once we have the CSI driver, then it's simple.
Okay. Should be easy to implement once CSI driver is in. Next up is CSI topology support. Cheng, any updates on this?
Yeah, so I was able to mostly get a working end-to-end system with the only feature missing being the stateful set spreading and some minor things. But now I'm basically turning my attention to getting the driver registrar or the kubelet side fully working, or like a full PR. Right now I'm working on a couple of unit tests that going.
Sorry, you're looking into a PR for driver registrar right now?
For kubelet.
For kubelet, okay.
Yeah, with the node registration mechanism.
Awesome. Cool, great progress, Cheng, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
For raw block, Vlad, do you have anybody working on these, or a list of identified bugs or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we probably need to update this. I have the, well, actually, I probably need to update it. I'm working on, there's several PRs further down. Some of them are related to the raw block, but nothing directly.
Okay.
But what I'll do is I'll identify which one may be raw block, because I think
okay. I think what might be useful is syncing up with Chris and seeing
that's what I was going to say.
The latest version of whatever we have, all the bits together, are sufficient to get his block implementation working. And if it is, I think we're in a good spot, because I know in the beginning of the quarter he was complaining that he wasn't even able to use it at all.
No, actually he was running into he was running into an issue where it was kind of flapping toward the end.
Okay.
So one of the bugs that I have further down in this document has to do with flapping.
Got it.
So I checked with him maybe last week, I think earlier last week. So that may be what was causing his issue.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the only thing I have right now. But I'll circle back with him again.
That's great. That's what I want to hear. I just want to make sure that he's in a place where he can use it, which is a good place for us.
Yeah. He was always in the place he could use it. It's just that he had this nagging issue of flapping where things were kind of hanging and taking a long time. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Next up is mount namespace propagation. There was a PR out for this by Fabio from Red Hat, and looks like it's outstanding and needs review.
I will LGTM it this week.
Cool. All right, thanks, Sean. PRs that need attention, external snapshotter is still outstanding. Actually, part of it got merged, the API part. And then the controller, I believe, is still outstanding. Xing, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so for the controller one, we have addressed, I think, all the comments so far.
Okay.
From you and Jan and everyone else. We haven't added the unit test yet, but my coworker is working on that. Should be done soon.
Perfect.
So.
And then what we should do once the unit tests are in is make sure that the unit tests are added to Travis, and then the PR should be blocked. You should add a blocker that says you can't merge unless you're passing the test.
We have the CI, the Travis. We have that one, right?
I don't think it was enabled. I think
it's not.
The CI is there, but it doesn't block for some reason.
Oh, is this required, the Travis? No, not this one?
I'm not sure if it's this one or if it's something else, because I know when I was, when they were turning on the automation for Tide, they didn't enable the block on Travis bit. We can sync up offline about that.
Okay.
I think there might be something that we need to do there, but just something to keep in the back of your head.
Okay. So I also added another link that is the API change to add the data source. So right now we only added that in PVC.
Okay.
Yeah, just the first one. Yeah, the first one. This one is actually pretty small now because I'm only adding this one type here.
Got it. All right, this is great. Do we have API reviewers looking at it?
Haven't got any review. I think Jean just asked a team to look at it, but I don't know if he has looked at this PR. I think he's just looking at the design spec.
Okay.
I don't know who else we should pin to review this part.
I think Tim is a good first person to take a look at it.
Okay.
I'm going to say LGTM looks good from SIG storage side, needs API approval, and then do CC Kubernetes, API approvers, and edit document. All right.
Okay, great. I didn't add the others. We do also have the external provisioner PR, but that one marked as work in progress right now because it has dependencies on this one and the external snapshot or PR. So
Okay.
so I didn't add it. I probably should add it here. Just yeah.
Sounds good. All right, so snapshots is looking very good. CSI volume limits. I have not had a chance to look at this further, and I don't know if Lamont is on the line. We'll take a look at that later. Support for mount options. What was going on here? It needed tests, and Luis and Hemant were going to help review it. Is Luis on the line by any chance?
No, I think he's doing that other meeting.
Okay.
But I took a look this morning at this guy, and I think he might, Brian might, or Ben might need to, because it's still saying 8,000 files, or 8,000 file changed.
Okay.
So I think he still probably needs to still do the dep update,
Yep.
Which we discussed last time.
Okay. All right. From these bugs, any of them worth talking about? We'll run through these very quickly. We got 2 minutes left. Single gRPC connection. So I think Luis is going to end up having to pick this up. Oh, actually, we got Foley's response. We'll sync up with Luis once he gets back. For this one, did you get a chance to look at the external role bindings, Cheng?
Yes. I was able to, basically for external provisioner roles, they have to be set up inside Kubernetes itself. And that's the same for external attacher. For role bindings, those are set up outside by the user.
Okay.
And on the other hand, for driver registrar roles, those have to be set up manually by the user as well.
And could you open up a PR for this, or is
this is just existing behavior. I think
okay.
I just needed to clarify if this is for sure the case.
Okay.
We don't have documentation. PR is not up to date just yet. I talked to David about it. He's probably the person who knows the most about all these changes.
Okay.
He said that he doesn't have time right now, but we'll be able to get to it maybe like later
So
on.
just to clarify, it sounds like there were changes made by Matt Wong, which now require the external provisioner to have access to the endpoints object.
Okay. Yeah, that I don't have a PR for that.
Okay.
I don't know if that won't send out a PR for it.
So how
I didn't
about,
ask.
can you take an action item to sync up with him to see if he can open up the PR for this? Or if
Sure.
not, come back and we can find an owner for this.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Everyone's just assigned to ping Matt Long. All right. P0 CSI incorrectly sets FS group, and the subsequent external provisioner does not respect access modes. Any progress on either of these?
Yeah, there's a PR. The link of the PR was further down. Right there.
Sweet.
I haven't looked to see. Well, there was a couple of, yeah.
Okay. Looks like it's currently in review and maybe a few comments.
So at some point, I'll just have you take a look at it. It's a very short, super small one.
Sounds good to me.
And then, oh, and so I add Fan. He's a coworker. He's looking at some of these bugs. So
Cool.
He created a PR for this documentation. So this documentation is an update to, since FS type is no longer defaulting to ext4, that never got updated as far as the documentation.
Okay.
So that's a documentation PR that's out there that Fan did. And he's also looking into, I'm not sure if I put the other one, it's two of them. Oh, the one couple, yeah, that guy. And this one is one of the location where flapping was happening. So this was reported by a while back, actually. Yeah, back in June, which it's probably similar to, and that's one of the things I need to circle back with Chris, but I think it's probably the very same thing that he was seeing.
Got it.
So there's a PR out. Is that it? Yes. So the PR basically, I had Fan put a retry logic around hitting the server. So hopefully we'll have some kind of back off instead of.
Does this do some sort of exponential back off?
If not, I'll look at it. We're using it in a couple places, so I was assuming that it does. If not, I'll look at it.
Okay, cool.
But
what happened was wait for volume attach would error out and just error directly.
Yeah, it was when it was hitting the server. It seems that it was continuously going back to that location. Where it was hitting the server to do a get attachment, or what was it doing? To do a get attachment ID.
Right.
So it's possible that we were getting into a situation where the API server was possibly being flooded, because the way the attachment, if the attachment doesn't come back within immediately, because we didn't have any kind of back off. So if it fails immediately, the controller probably is retrying right away while it's waiting, which may cause the API server to throttle.
I wonder if wait for attachment, who it gets called by. So wait for attach should be part of the mount operation. And the mount
It is.
operation gets called through the operation executor.
Mm-hmm.
So if this returns an error, that means the mount operation should fail, which means it should go into exponential backoff, which I think ends up being like every 2 minutes. So interesting. Okay. I'll leave it for you guys to figure out. Sounds like you have it under control.
Yeah, we'll look there to see if it's a fix for it.
Okay.
And then I'll see if I can get him to work on a couple other stuff that's listed here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Vlad. So last item of discussion, if anybody else wants to drop off at this point, feel free, is about CSI inline volumes. So Vlad and I started discussing this yesterday. Vlad, I'll stop sharing my screen and you can share yours if you want and drive the discussion.
Sure. Like I said, let me find what we were talking about. What basically, I'm just kind of looking for a consensus as to what exactly we want to achieve in the next couple of weeks. Because it seems like the original proposal was shooting to get both inline or attach and non-attachable as part of the goal. So what I wanted to kind of iron out is figure out what exactly we're trying to get done this quarter. If we're going to try to set the stage for both attachable and non-attachable, or just trying to get attachable, non-attachable first, and then.
So it might be worth laying out what the issue we have with attachable is. Like my first guess when I first started talking to you was like, oh, why does attachable need to be special case? Why do we care?
Right.
So maybe lay that out.
I'm trying to remember the issue. Why? So attachable, part of the issue right now is some of the attachable drivers, even in the inline entry drivers, they don't necessarily work or offer all the features and work as well as when they are working as attachable. Even when as you had mentioned, something like GCPD, if it's being used as a inline in pod as an attachable driver or as an attachable volume, there's certain features, I don't remember exactly what they are, that will not work as well. So I guess what we have to decide is whether or not we want to keep basically bring that same limitation over to the CSI side, where if it is an attachable volume or an attachable driver that is being inlined, are we okay with it losing some of its functionalities?
Yeah, I was trying to think back to our discussion on Friday. So I know in the current proposal, there was an option to have a whitelist in pod security policy. That makes complete sense.
Right.
You leave it up to the cluster administrator to decide what volumes should be allowed and what volumes should not be allowed. Then there was a second field that was in that current proposal, which was allow attachable CSI volumes. And when both you and I looked at this initially, we're like, oh, this seems unnecessary. Why do we care at this point?
Right.
We'll just let the plugin or the cluster admin decide. Mm-hmm. But then what we realized is, well, we don't really want to allow any arbitrary plugin to work with this.
Right.
So for example, the migration case is pretty much the only case that we want to allow this to happen. If you have a GCPD or an AWS EBS volume that creates a CSI volume source, then it should be allowed to do, it should be allowed to do that. It should be allowed to be used in line, but a normal driver shouldn't.
I see.
How do we go about enforcing that? Like having a single Boolean here doesn't really help you, because if I set this to true, then anybody using any CSI driver can then just come in and set this, and it'll be allowed for any CSI volume. What we were talking about was maybe making this a attachable, making this a list of driver names. But then we're not sure if this is going to fix the issue, because you still have, like, if the GCPD CSI driver is whitelisted, it doesn't really help you.
If I may add some background.
Please.
Yes.
Field in PSP. I talked about it to Jordan, and he wanted that because the administrators, they don't care. And they install like any drivers out there without thinking about security. And the security issue we have with attachable CSI drivers are the secrets on detach. If a CSI driver needs a secret on detach, and user can use the driver in inline volume pointing to secrets in his namespace, then the user can delete the secret, then delete the pod, and the volume is attached forever because we don't have the secrecy to detach that. So Jordan wanted a field for that, but that was at the time we did not have CSI driver. So now, when we have CSI driver instance, the administrator can easily check if the driver is attachable and non-attachable, and read documentation and everything, and put the driver into the whitelist in the PSP, like in Flexi. So could get away without the field for inline CSI attachable volumes in PSP, and we can expect that the user is smart enough to check the CSI driver instance, if the driver is attachable or not, and do the right thing.
Okay.
So I think we can remove it, but we need to check it with Jordan.
Okay, you think we can remove the allow attachable CSI volumes?
Yes, yes. And we can just use the whitelist, and that's it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. The other question that came up. Okay, so I'll update the proposal with that, and then ask for a review. And then the other thing that that you and I had gone back and forth on is the prefix. And I wanted to kind of circle back with that, because what we were discussing was whether or not we need to carry the prefix in both the actual embedded spec where we specify the volume, because there's a field there where we can say what kind of prefix we want to do, and then also in the PSP. We have allowed CSI volume handle prefixes. So knowing that during mounting, so if we're talking about attachable, I'm sorry, if we're talking about non-attachable, during mounting, we get we can get access to the pod ID. Could we just use the pod UID to do the name spacing so we can avoid collision, or do we still need to use the prefix handle?
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, the issue was
The prefix is there, so users can't steal each other's data.
right.
If I have a secret like volume and I use some bot that uses that, then the other guy could guess the volume handle. And we add the prefix, so the other guy can't guess the prefix handle. But at the same time, we are adding the port information to the node publish. So even if I use the same volume handle as the other guy, I will have my own port ID
Right.
in there, so the driver can do the right thing and give me a different volume. Okay.
But the problem with that is who sets it, and how do we, ensure that it is always set correctly?
Or do we even set it at all? Could we let the plumbing set that and do it uniformly? That's the question I have. Do we have to have an admin intervene to set a prefix or specify how the prefix should be set?
Again, this was before CSI Driver existed. Now we have CSI Driver that says that we should pass a port through node publish. I need to think about this.
When you say this is before CSI Driver existed, you're talking about the CSI Driver info?
Yeah.
Okay.
The object, the API object.
Okay.
So can we trust administrators? They will set the CSI driver correctly, and they will always pass both in the secret-like volumes, and that the driver will provide the different secrets to different ports. I'm not sure.
How is that? And that was a question I had in my mind: is how is that done for internal CSI for internal drivers, entry drivers right now? Or are we trying not to do what they're doing?
If I have secret as entry API object, then kubelet looks up the secret in the namespace where the port runs. There is no other way.
Right.
But now, if I have CSI driver and I give it volume handler, it needs to mount the same volume for all volume handlers out there. So if I am smart enough to guess the volume handler, I can mount secret of anybody else. And if you add the prefix, then you can't guess the handler because the prefix is part of the handler.
Yeah, but if the prefix is based on a namespace, couldn't I guess what the namespace is?
No, if yeah, I need to remember what the proposal was.
The proposal.
Can I, as a user, keep the prefix? Well, declare that the volume doesn't need prefix and guess something. I need to look at it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm trying to pull it up too. Does it not?
So I think we need to decide, is this part of the requirement for the initial release of this? We can always add it in later if we need to. So security is important,
Right.
but I think it goes back to the question of, do we expect normal users to be using this for accessing remote volumes? My gut feeling is that no, we should not. CSI inline should be reserved for ephemeral volumes. For ephemeral local volumes, I don't think this is an issue, because every time you provision a volume, it's like custom for you. You're not taking somebody else's volume. The only place where sorry, go ahead, Jan.
The important part is about guessing. If I can guess the volume handle of volume of somebody else, then I can steal his secret.
Right, but if we don't allow remote volumes to be accessed through inline, so you can guess whatever you want, you could put it in line, but we don't allow you to do it on remote volumes unless your cluster administrator lets you.
It has nothing to do with local or remote. It has with CSI. CSI mandates that if I give it volume handle, it gives me always the same volume.
This actually leads to the third issue that we have, which I think is the biggest one to discuss, which is local ephemeral volumes don't really have a volume handle today. If you look at the way that they're implemented, CSI requires a handle, and so somebody in that PR, I think, proposed auto-generating handles. And
that's the prefix. That's the prefix.
That's the prefix?
Yes, that's the prefix.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, is it a prefix if we're going to generate the entire thing?
Oh, well, I don't know. You can call it whatever you want.
Okay. And I think part of my confusion was that too, is if it's a prefix, I was in my head thinking it was part of a name that the user would have provided ahead of time. But what you're saying is the prefix is completely generating a volume handle.
Yeah. Well, the prefix is the part that Kubernetes adds.
Okay.
And user has an option to add a postfix. Like, I don't know what they could put there, but they can put something there, something useful.
How would they specify the postfix?
In the inline volume spec. Isn't there a field for that?
Yeah, that's the field he was talking about.
Okay.
Let me see if I can bring this up on the screen.
Yeah. So I think the problem all of this boils down to is the fact that we're trying to do provisioning inside of the mount call. And the mount call assumes that whatever volume you're trying to access, or sorry, the CSI mount call, the CSI node publish call, expects that the volume is already there. It doesn't expect to create the volume.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is hack around that by saying, okay, we'll just create a handle for you when we call make this call. The problem is, can we do so deterministically? Does every single volume get a new UID or new volume handle every time we need a new volume handle? We create a new one. If not, what do we reuse and how do we reuse?
That's the prefix. You can set if the prefix is generated per port, so each port from a template or from whatever, can get its own volume ID, volume handle, or you can set the prefix per namespace. So if you have multiple ports in the same namespace that use the same inline volume, they will get the same prefix and they will get really the same volume.
I see.
And then if you want to really use some inline remote volume or whatever, then you don't set any prefix and you get the real volume handles
The actual volume name.
Okay, so if you set this, can you walk me through this API, Vlad?
Yeah, so this is, can you see my screen?
Yep.
So this is the prefix that Jan is talking about. And you would set that in the volume source down here.
Okay.
Okay.
You pick one of three, either
either it's prefixed by pod. I'm guessing it would use the pod ID or
okay.
GUID. Is
I
that
don't
correct, Jan?
I don't remember. Probably UID of the pod. Probably.
Yeah. Actually, it's right here. And then if it's a namespace, it's prefixed by UID of the namespace where the
Okay.
pod is located. And if nothing is specified, there's no prefix added. So
Got it. Okay, so this means that if I am in a different pod, I can't suddenly request a volume handle from somebody else's pod. It's unique to their pod or their namespace.
right.
You
can't just put a name.
You can't just specify it directly. I can't say my volume handle is. But what if I say my volume handle is? I know what your UID is, and I give you. I put prefix as none, and then I put your UID.
You must guess my UID.
Yes.
That probably can be cheated. Either Jordan agreed with that, or we have some other mechanism I don't remember. Maybe there is a way how to prevent using none in TSC, but I really don't remember.
Okay. So in general, I guess this makes sense. Maybe
I think from an implementation point of view, this makes sense. But my question is, now we're asking the administrator or the user to figure out what pod or namespace means.
Yeah.
Because really, it doesn't. No, what I was going to say is I think what I was trying to suggest is, out of these two, can we if we know we're doing inline, can we just pick and always do it one way, either by namespace UID or pod UID? Because if it's inline, and can we always default to using one of those? Because all it is a namespace strategy, really, for the volume handle.
So my problem with this is that we're adding in new requirements here, right? If we look at existing in-tree ephemeral local volumes, like let's say secret, they don't try to protect against this. With the secret volume, you can today just say, I want to use secret name foo, and you can do that from any namespace. So I'm thinking about, okay, if I want to implement the secret driver as a CSI driver, the secret plugin as a CSI driver, what do I need to do? I will have volume attributes that say, tell me what the secret name is that you want to use. And I'll have some other volume attributes like what is the key that you want to use. So in that case, if I have two different pods that are that want exactly the same thing, should they have different volume handles? I feel like maybe they should have the same handle, basically do a checksum of the volume attributes and use that as a volume handle.
It doesn't really matter because the actual value of the secret is based on the attribute, not on the handle.
Right. The only significance of the handle is if somehow they have some sort of idempotency thing going on. And if they do, then that idempotency should be correlated to the pod, not to the content. Okay, I can buy that argument. Also, do we really need namespace level here, or can we just simplify this and give it? Can we make this a Boolean to say generate or don't generate?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. And if we
I
do
don't know.
generate, we always do pod? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know. Just in case that two pods needs the same volume, we'll lose this use case. I'm not sure if it is important or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
But we can. I would edit like the none and pod. We can always add the namespace later, but please don't make it Boolean.
Okay. So just none and pod?
Yeah.
And maybe you rename it to something clearer, because when I first saw this, I had no idea what it was. I don't know what you're going to name it, but somehow make it clear that it's generating volume handles.
Okay. And
Based
right,
off of
it's generating the full volume handle, not just
Yes.
prefix.
It is prefix. There is still volume handle in the inline pod.
Yeah, but are we saying if we're creating a secret, there's no volume handle that you have to provide, right?
Yeah, but you can. I don't know, for logging
I
or
see.
for
I
anything.
think that's too many options. Just remove the volume handle from inline. Leave
But
two of these
then
options.
you can't have none if you don't have the volume handle
Right.
in.
Then you can't do attachable.
Yeah.
So here's what I was thinking was actually initially when I first started thinking about this, now that we have the CSI registry, the savior of all, we could have an option in the CSI registry that says, I require automatic generation of handles, basically. So move this not in the pod security policy, but as part of the driver's registry object. That way, it's not something that's set by the cluster administrator. It's something that's set by the driver. Because the driver knows what the requirements for itself are, and the cluster administrator is bound to fuck them up.
Yep.
So if we move this to the cluster registry, then in the cluster registry, the driver says, oh, I want to enable automatic generation of volume handles, and I want you to do this specific type, either namespace or pod or whatever. And by default, it's not enabled. So our code would now be able to differentiate between the case that a volume handle is not specified and it is required by the plugin, or it is not specified and we're supposed to auto-generate.
All right.
Okay.
So we move all that to the, move it to the CSI info.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's left here is just allowed flex, the name of the the name of the CSI drivers.
Yeah.
That are allowed in as pod security setting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go back to the list of items. I started adding it to so we have generated name. So what we agreed on is move to CSI cluster registry. Driver can specify if they want no generation auto generation using pod UID or auto gen using namespace UID. Okay, that seems reasonable to me.
yes.
Do we need that for this quarter, or can we add that in a subsequent quarter? I think we need it for this quarter, right?
That being the auto-generated name?
Yeah, because otherwise you can't use it for creating a secret volume.
Right.
Or not ephemeral volume.
Right.
Okay.
I would say that's more needed than support for attachable.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. So I'll add that to my my doc as just those three options then. And do we want to still keep it as a prefix or not?
I think probably a better name, but it will be I think it needs to be a prefix, because if we foresee supporting attachable inline, then we're going to have to be able to specify the name.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So
and
basically what I'll do is just take whatever is there and more or less keep it the same and see if I could come up with a better name. Otherwise, it'll be the same.
Okay.
yeah.
I'll try to come up with a name too, and I'll let you know.
Okay. And so the other two issues were attachable volumes, Boolean. We no longer need this with the CSI cluster registry because that already has whether it's attachable or not. We can use that Boolean.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
CSI a volume handle prefix. We talked about this right now. We're not going to have a prefix inline. It'll be part of the CSI cluster registry.
For the setting.
Right. Okay, that sounds good to me.
Yep.
Any other questions, clarifications, concerns?
No, I think everything. I think I'm in a better place, and I just want to make sure that for this quarter, we're not necessarily going to pursue inline attachable. We're just going to concentrate on inline ephemeral for now.
Inline attachable should not be a goal for this quarter, but we shouldn't do anything to block it from happening.
Right. Exactly.
It looks like we're not doing anything to block it.
Correct.
What I really would like is for David to take a look at this and see if we can make this work with what he has planned. So as soon as you're done with this, updating your this design doc.
Yep.
And we're
by Wednesday he should have it.
We'll have David to take a look at it too and make sure that he's okay with it in terms of the migration.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, it looks good to me.
Yep. Thanks, you guys. That was very helpful.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jan. I know it's late there. I appreciate you staying up late.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think you already dropped.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.